last week, the last 2 weeks, we've covered two of the 6 enemies, Arishad Vargas. We covered lust, anger. This week we'll go over greed, Kam, Krodh, Lobha. Lust and greed are related. They are similar. In lust, we recognized lust has 3 component parts, right? There is thinking, feeling, and willing. We have an idea. First, we experience the senses coming in contact with the sense objects, right? We desire something tasty to eat, and we have idli, sambar, pizza, whatever. And we enjoy it. We experience some pleasure. And we begin to think about the sense pleasure. The more we think, as we know from the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we then develop an attachment. Dhyayata vishayan pumsa sanghas teshu. We develop an attachment by this constant thinking, oh wow, that pizza was really wonderful. I would like to have some more. By that constant thinking, we develop an attachment. And from that attachment, this feeling, an emotional imperative develops within our consciousness, so we have to get a pizza. And then so we're thinking, feeling that emotional imperative, that attachment, and then willing. We then endeavor to achieve the objects of the senses. We endeavor to fulfill that desire, that kama. So that's the 3 component parts of kama. Lust, or want, is a better term to use than lust. Lust has other connotations. So we had lust, we went over lust, greed, and now, lust, anger, and now greed. Greed is similar to lust in that it is a desire for something. It is the desire to engage the sense objects. However, the difference between kama and lobha, I'll use the Sanskrit words because it's easier to differentiate between the two. The difference between kama and lobha is that lobha, or greed, is a desire to possess far beyond the mere satiation of our senses, right? We're hungry, we want to experience, taste, eat something nice, so we have a pizza or idli sambar or whatever. But once we have eaten, once we have had that pizza, once we have had that idli sambar, we no longer crave that pizza, that idli sambar. We have a havan at 7 o'clock. You're welcome to stay if you'd like, but right now I'm just doing a little class online. So once we've tasted that idli sambar, then we're no longer craving it. That's the nature of kama. That's the nature of want, right? We've satiated our senses. We no longer have the pangs of hunger. In fact, we may have even glutted our senses in that we have no desire to see a pizza for the rest of the week. So be it. That's kama. So kama, we can be temporarily satisfied on the level of kama, want, because it's really tied in to the satisfaction of the senses. Lobha, greed, is very, very different. Lobha is about possessiveness. It is removed from whether or not our senses are satisfied. It's not about satisfying the senses. Lobha. Lobha is about possession for the sake of possessing itself. It is to have, to possess, to experience something beyond the need or the want of the material senses. So we're not hungry, but we accumulate foodstuffs. We are not particularly interested in, or very good example, we certainly desire to have or need to have a house for our family. But then to have a house of 25 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, 3.5 kitchens becomes really about possession rather than the need to, or the want to satisfy our senses. So lobha is a different quality altogether from kama. This is what makes lobha, this greed, so very destructive. It's one thing to have a desire. It's one thing to have kama. Oftentimes, kama is something that is described as even animals. All living entities have kama. They have a desire to fulfill or to satisfy the impulses of the senses. So even animals have this drive. However, animals as a species do not have lobha. Animals as a species do not, of course, we want to talk about chipmunks and their hoarding, chestnuts for the winter. That is also impelled by instinct. But the general rule holds that animals, other living creatures, other species, do not have this desire to possess beyond the need of the senses. Once their senses are satisfied, they don't continue to try to accumulate, as a general rule. This this principle of lobha is a uniquely human affliction, which is why it's called arisha. It's why it's called an enemy of the human being. Because we have the capacity to master, to not be controlled by greed, if we allow ourselves to be controlled by greed, it is then a stumbling block on the path of realization. It is a stumbling block on the path of just civilized living. So these principles, these arishadvargas, these 6 enemies, are not just obstacles to spiritual development. These 6 enemies, these arishadvargas, are obstacles to civilized living. I was reading an article, and the exact ratio I cannot recall, but essentially the population of the planet at the moment, we use, I believe, 2.5 times the resources that are available on the planet. There is no reason why this is so, except for the fact that we want to consume far more than is necessary for our existence. It is this principle of lobha that impels the human being to exist far beyond the boundaries in terms of the use of resources. We accumulate for the sake of accumulation itself. We hoard for the sake of possessing material sense objects simply for the sake of possession alone. The senses are removed from the equation. The senses are satiated. We can only eat so much. We can only watch, smell, hear, live in comfort to a limited extent. How wonderful does a bed have to be in order to have a good night's sleep? There's one demon, as we all know, right? His name is Hiranyakashipu. It means gold and a soft bed, which means he was addicted to sense gratification. How expensive, how luxurious does your bed have to be in order to get a good night's sleep? That's the difference. With a fairly decent, moderately priced bed, well built, well constructed, well designed, one can have a good night's sleep for many, 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 many years. Is it then necessary to get a bed that costs $30,000? The quality of sleep is the same. One need or one purchase is addressing kama, want. The other purchase is addressing or is driven by lobha, greed. It is beyond the necessity of the senses to have, to accumulate, to possess so many sense objects in excess. So that is lobha. So next week, next Saturday, we'll go on to, what are we? This kam, krodha, lobha, moha. Moha is illusion. This is a good one. Next week, we'll go over moha. Hari Hari.